Okay, so Honeymoon caught me by surprise. This is most definitely a movie you must experience to truly enjoy. This is a sci-fi horror movie from 2014 starring Ygritte from Game of Thrones fame and a guy that reminds me way too much of my best friend's husband for comfort. It starts at their wedding as they tell us about their first date, the horrible Indian food that ruined it, and how he proposed. They're spending their honeymoon, roll credits, at Bee's family cottage in Nowhere, Canada, equipped fully with a weird bear on the wall and hollow fake ducks. After a day or two of sex scenes, much harder for me to watch because all I saw was my best friend's husband, they look way too much alike. It's ugh. She goes into the woods and
something bad happened to me in the woods.
From there, all hell breaks loose. So, I'm gonna say this, and I mean it. Stop watching this video. Go watch Honeymoon. It's on Hulu. It is also on Shutter. Both are very cheap, and you really need to experience this movie, and then come back to my video to enjoy. Welcome back. This is an alien movie. Though it does take a while to get there, it gets real hardcore. It's a bit annoying with all the lovey-dovey exposition at the beginning, but it's all there for a purpose. To show the extreme change in Bee in a 4-day time. You, as the audience, along with poor Paul, never find out much about the aliens. But we do know a few things. First, they choose women. And second, they want something done. At the beginning of the movie, they visit a nearby restaurant and find a man there, angry and breaking things. They go to leave, but the man, Will, recognizes Bee from school.
It's Will.
As they're reminiscing, his wife comes in, acting very strange.
Annie.
You should leave.
He grabs her roughly by the arm. Bee and Paul take this as a moment to leave the all-around strange situation. Paul wakes up super early the next day, kisses his wife, and decides to go fishing. He lives the nightmare we all have. The alarm went off too early, and he could have spent more time sleeping. When he gets back to bed, he discovers that Bee is missing, though she was there 10 minutes ago when he got out of bed. After a panicked search, he finds her naked in the woods with no memory of how she got there. Paul is understandably freaked out, but Bee plays it off as if it's nothing.
Must be sleepwalking.
But from there on, everything changes. In Bee's behavior to even her vocabulary.
I think I'm just gonna go take a sleep.
The next day, while messing around, Paul notices marks on the inside of her thigh. She brushes off the remarks and says they're mosquito bites, nothing to worry about, and walks away. Paul investigates the woods further and finds her nightgown, the one that she was wearing the night she went missing, torn and ripped to shreds, and it's all covered in some sort of mucus. He comes back to find her in the bathroom, rehearsing how she'll turn him down for sex later, even though they're on their honeymoon and have been sex crazed this whole time. You're left wondering what this movie is even about. Left with the unease of the solitary point of view of what Paul has seen. Strange overnight changes in his wife, unsure of what is going on. She is still sexually motivated, but her aversion to it and her rehearsed responses make him confused, and understandably so. As if whatever's happening to her is still fueling her sex drive, but she is fighting it. Bee's aggressive and scrambled responses whenever he asks her about the nightgown, and as she claims,
It's put away with my dirty laundry. It's in the box, the clothes, the suitcase. It's in the suitcase with my dirty laundry.
But the continued lights and humming is finally spotted by Paul that night and quickly extinguished when it spots him. Paul thinks it's Will, the strange friend from the restaurant, arms himself with a shotgun and investigates in the wood. The music builds, thinking you're going to get a jump scare, but the tension breaks with a warning shot in the sky, waking Bee. When he explains what happens, she's caught in her lies and left with just the reality of what actually happened in the woods. Poor Paul thinks she went to meet Will in the woods and something happened, but Bee has given up, admitting that it wasn't Will in the woods, letting on that something did attack her.
It wasn't Will, okay? You have to stop!
He was looking in our windows!
They sleep in separate rooms that night. This is when things take a hard left at horror and even tiptoe into body horror. The next day, he wakes to find Bee scribbling in a notebook frantically. When he asks what she is doing, she slams it shut and says it's nothing. They decide to go fishing that morning, frustrated with all of her obvious rehearsed responses saying that she doesn't want him. He goes to pleasure her while they're on the boat and pulls back a handful of blood. They rush back to shore, and she brushes it off like it's nothing, saying that it's just her period, but he insists that it's not. He watched her plan their honeymoon around her cycle.
I sat there while you marked the calendar and counted the days, so we didn't have to deal with it now.
He demands they leave and goes to find Will to see why his wife was acting just as strange. Paul arrives to the restaurant to find Annie, his wife, who is acting even worse. She ditches him quickly and rides her boat into the distance. After a little breaking and entering, Paul finds that Will had a security camera set up on his computer. He scrubs the footage to find Annie leaving the house in the middle of the night with a bright light shining on her, just like the one that shone in the window. Here is where I love a true setup of tension, true horror. There's a power surge and the computer dies. The lights slowly flicker as if browning out, just like in the kitchen the entire movie. The tension builds and the music behind it as Paul steps back to notice all the papers on the wall, all in Annie's handwriting, writing, "My name is Annie. My husband is Will." All the same thing that he caught Bee writing just earlier that day. The score builds to show the same mucus on the piece of paper that he found on Bee's nightgown. And right then, the music dies. The lights die. No jump scare. Just the terrifying realization that this isn't human. Pure terror. Paul runs back to the cabin to confront Bee, and this is where I stop explaining it. You need to see this movie. It is far more than anything I would take away from you experiencing. The third act is bonkers. When I said to watch the movie, I meant it. There's no jump scares in this movie, just unadulterated fear, sci-fi with a touch of body horror. What if, when you should be the happiest in the world, the one person you love most changes for the worst? Thank you so very much for joining me. Honeymoon really shot it out of the ballpark, and after I watched the movie, I knew I needed to make other people watch it. I hope this really encourages you to watch the movie. It's absolutely amazing. You can find it on Hulu or Shutter if you're watching this present day. If not, Google is your best friend. Thank you so much. Leave any comments for any movies you'd like to see in the future, and until next time, stay spooky.